Welcome along, my name is Zuri. Today's yoga practice is going to be all around the focus of the hips. When we think about the hips, this area of the body connects to the pelvis and an awareness to your lower back as well. So what sometimes can be perceived as tightness sitting in your hips, maybe tightness sitting in the lower back area, or that disconnection that we have through the pelvis. The ability to be able to move your hips freely and to create that gentle movement that we need for a lot of the yoga poses comes down to that connection with ourselves and how we feel. So quite often in the yoga practice we talk about the hips being an area where we hold on to a lot of emotions. So if we're not really truly connected, then maybe there's that discomfort or unawareness of what we're really feeling, not just in a moment, but just that feeling and awareness of how we're able to move our hips. If you ever look at anybody who's an amazing Latin dancer, they have this sort of fluid movement around the hips and around the pelvis. And as a child, I used to love Latin American dancing, and I've always had freedom of movement at my hips. And quite a few of these poses that we're doing here today are actually some of my favorite yoga poses. And what I want you to do is really break it down for you, and it's going to be a very slow, very gentle practice to see if I can help you to explore the area around your hips, your pelvis and your lower back to create more freedom in your body. So from sitting in a position like this, again for some of you if it's not comfortable around the hips, pelvis or lower back, use a cushion, support yourself. Even if it just means that you sit with that cushion to begin with, and then feel the difference as we've been through the practice and notice what has changed. So I'm sitting cross-legged. I can feel both sit bones onto the ground and just finding a little bit of movement there, maybe play around, and then start to draw up through the midline of the body, through the center of the body. Maybe open up the chest, roll the shoulders down and back, and just relax the arms. Take a couple of breaths. Just notice and observe your breathing as it is in this moment. Maybe just notice how you're showing up. Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling energized? To begin the practice, I'm really just connecting into my breath and also just checking in with how I'm feeling. So if you're feeling particularly tired or any tightness and discomfort in your body, then maybe pull back. Take your time in the practice. If you're feeling more energized, I'm going to encourage you to play more in the practice. If you feel like you've got a lot of energy here today, like a child, use that energy to be playful in your body. So coming into the first gentle hip opener, come into child's pose. Bring your big toes together and separate the knees so they're just slightly wider than your hips, maybe towards the edges of the mat, and reach the arms out in front and soften your forehead down onto the mat. As you breathe, focus the breath into the back of the body. So feel the gentle movement of the back of your rib cage. And if you needed to, you could place a cushion between your hips and your heels. Again, just giving myself a few moments to connect to my breath. To set my intentions for the practice. And when you're ready, gently breathe in to come up onto your hands and your knees. Wrist under the shoulders, knees under the hips, and the knees spaced apart. That creates a bit of opening and space through the hips and the pelvis. So rather than going into cat and cow, I want you to focus on the movement of your hips. So just move your hips from side to side. You could keep your shoulders still, but if it felt right, you could move your head and your shoulders in the same direction that the hips move. So let's get comfortable kind of moving hips and pelvis, creating a little bit of movement into the lower back, shifting the hips right to left and maybe taking the head with you and just glancing over one shoulder. And pausing when you get to the middle. Shift your weight over your right heel as you almost push back into a variation of child's pose. Come up and around to the left and repeat left to right. Shift over your left hip, come around. So again, creating the movement almost at the hips and the pelvis. Press back. Keeping the hands just where they are. Press back, circle around. And I'm engaging the lower half of the belly so that as I move around through the pelvis, through the lower back, I'm using the belly to support the lower back. So let's do one more round. Right circle round to left and then left to right. Come back to neutral spine position and sit back again into child's pose. Forehead softens onto the mat. Just take a couple of rounds of your breath here. On your next breath in, inhale, come up onto the hands and knees. Wrist under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Tuck the toes under, hover the knees, and then gently press the hips, the pelvis up as high as you can. And lower the heels super slow, keeping the hips high. Now you could do this first down dog with your knees ever so slightly bent. Emphasis on lifting the hips, the pelvis. Draw the lower half of the belly in. Relax the lower jaw. Go for a beautiful stretch of the back of the body. And then come back to your knees and exhale back into child's pose. With a big sigh, reach the arms out in front, let the forehead soften. Use the energy of the breath. Inhale to come up. Tuck toes under, exhale. Press back to downward facing dog. Big, beautiful stretch of the back of the body. Take the right leg and lift that leg, three-legged dog. Bend the knee and start to move your right heel as though you're bringing it behind your left hip, as though your right knee is drawing up towards the sky. And bring it back and around. Take a breath in. And again, exhale back to child's pose. Long breath out. Inhale, come up. Tuck toes under, long breath out. Exhaling fully into downward facing dog. This time take that left leg, extend the heel up towards the sky. As you bend that knee, start to just let your heel come behind your right hip. So now rotating that left knee up towards the sky to get a bit of movement again into my hip joint. Bring that leg around, step it back, exhale, downward facing dog. Breath in. And as you come all the way down, big exhale, child's pose. Take a breath in, inhale, come up. Tuck the toes under, exhale, downward facing dog. Right leg only, three-legged dog, extending up into that top heel. Now look forwards and step that right leg towards your right hand. Pause. We're going to start off in low lunge. You could come up to the tips of the fingers, the back leg is straight. So bring your chest, your heart forward. You may feel this in the hip flexor. of the front of that front leg, or you may feel it more through your hip flexor of the back leg. So again, just check in. That feeling and awareness that you're getting as you're connecting into this pose. Lower that back knee. Release the back foot. Take a breath in, raise the arms up. Open up the chest. Coming into a gentle back bend. Imagine that you're lengthening through the side body. So even though you're bringing the hips lower towards the ground, I want you to think of height and length through the upper half of the body, and maybe use the arms as an expression of that height and lift. So we reach the arms up, lift the chest up. Take one more breath here. And as you bring the arms around to the floor, step the right leg back so you're on your hands and your knees. And lean your weight forwards, lower the body. As you come down towards the floor, bringing the big toes, the heels together, move the hands slightly further back and roll the shoulders back as you open the chest to baby cobra. Lower the body. Try that again. Roll shoulders back, puff chest open. Keep the feet active, lightly pressing the feet down into the mat and slowly lower. One more. Roll the shoulders back, breath in, draw up. So coming into a very gentle back bend. Lower the body, tuck the toes under. Exhale, press back into child's pose. Take a couple of breaths. Inhale and exhale. Use the energy of the breath in to draw your body up. Tuck the toes under. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Press up and back. Relaxing that lower jaw. Extend the left leg this time. Heel towards the sky. Glance forward. Step that left leg towards your left hand. And pause. Maybe coming up to the tips of the fingers. Back leg is straight, pressing through that back heel. And that front knee stacked in a straight line with that front ankle. So where do we feel it? Hip flexor here, the front of the hip of the back leg, or feeling it towards the back of your hip flexor on that front leg. Now keep the spine long, bring your chest forward as we start to create space into the front of the body. So maybe just notice where you're looking, glancing forwards. And again, that awareness and that connection to the core, lower half of the belly drawing in. Slowly lower that back knee, release the back foot, sweep the arms up, breath in. A variation on crescent lunge. So it's a low crescent lunge with that back knee on the ground. So it's giving us some support as we draw the hips down. So again, extending through that hip flexor. But get the space and the lift in the front of the body. So drawing up through the side body and lifting up through the chest, widening the collarbones. Maybe open the hands, create space between each of the fingers. Maybe if you feel comfortable, look up just slightly. Take one more round of your breath here. And as you bring the arms around, tuck the toes under and step that leg back as you lower to your knees and slowly lower your body all the way towards the ground. Big toes, heels together. Moving the hands back to find the lowest part of the rib cage. Breath in and exhale. So the chest puffs open, the shoulders roll back. Exhale, lower down, just one more. Breathing in. And as you take a long breath out, release, tuck the toes under, come back into child's pose. Taking the knees slightly apart, stretching the arms out in front, or if you prefer, sweep the arms around, let your knuckles rest onto the ground behind you. So let's add on to that flow. Same flow, just slightly different. Reach the arms out in front. Inhale, come up onto hands and knees. Tuck toes under, exhale, downward facing dog. Extending the right leg for three-legged dog. Glance forward, step that right leg through. And coming into low lunge, and this is where we started. But what if you took that right arm and brought it inside, maybe wiggle the right foot just a little wider, and you could just bring both your arms on the inside of that right leg, but you could also lower down, coming into the lizard pose. Now if it's not comfortable to bring the forearms all the way down, then just stay on your hands or use a block or a bolster to support. I'm just shifting my weight just a little further, lower to the ground. But still keeping the length through the spine. Lower that back knee. Reach the arms up, breath in. Open up the chest, look up if that feels comfortable, keep the length. So it is a very gentle back bend as we look forwards and up. Take one more inhale, sweep the arms around, step back to high plank, pausing in your high plank position. Lower the knees, slowly lower the body. Baby cobra, inhale, draw the chest forwards. And then tuck the toes under, again back to child's pose. Big toes together, knees slightly wider than the hips. Inhale, draw up. Tuck toes under, exhale, press back to downward facing dog. Extending that left leg, heel up. Glance forward, step that left leg through. Coming up to the tips of the fingers. Lengthen back leg. Chest forward, lengthen spine, look forwards. Bring your left arm just on the inside of that left leg. Maybe lengthen through the spine as you wiggle your left foot just a little wider. Or come all the way down through to your forearms. So here you get to play around and explore the ranges of movement available to you at this moment around your hips, your pelvis and your lower back. Maybe on the hands is all we need. Maybe tips of the fingers. Lower that back knee. Sweep the arms up. Breath in. Puff that chest open. Roll the shoulders back. Look forwards, look up. Create space between the fingers. Open up the palm. Open up the chest. And as you swing the arms forward, tuck the back toes under that back foot. Step back into high plank. You could lower the body all the way down or to your knees. Big toes together. Inhale, come up to cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. So a little pause. Rest the body here. And just go for a little bit of movement here. Lift one heel. Press one heel down and away. Lift the heels, come up onto your tippy toes and take tiny little steps, walking towards the top of your mat. Head hangs low. Take the feet a little wider. Turn the toes out. And just start to sink your hips. Come into a low squat. The chest open. Again, we're creating that height and that lift through the upper half of the body while opening up the hips and creating space around the pelvis. Take one more breath here. And as you place the hands to the floor, come up gently, wiggle the feet in, but keep the feet apart and slowly curl up. Bring the head up, last of all. Slowly, gently does it. Roll the shoulders back, rotate the palms forward, raise the arms up on a breath in. Exhale, bow down to the earth. Step back right to left. High plank. Slowly lower. Cobra. Come forwards with the chest. Roll the shoulders back. Tuck the toes under. Exhale. Downward facing dog.
Extending that right leg for three-legged dog. Now slowly, this time you're going to bring the knee rather than the foot, as though you're bringing the knee towards the outer edge of your right hand. Now the shin and the leg, lower half of the leg, could be on a slight angle, so if your right knee is just slightly outside of your right hand, your right foot is almost towards the front of your left hip. Slide the back leg away until you can feel your hips and your pelvis squaring towards the center of the mat. So if you think of a straight line from hip to shoulder, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, we're squaring through this midline of the body. So at this stage I'm going to keep the chest nice and high. Roll the shoulders back, puff the chest open. So even though I'm trying to sink the hips low, and you could place a cushion underneath that front hip, I'm still keeping that lift. So I've got this very gentle little back bend going on. And think of the chest coming forward and the top, the crown of the head lifting up towards the sky. Now if you want to stay here, this might be all you need. But if you want to come down onto your forearms, option 2 to stay here, or slide the hands all the way out and let the head rest. Gently walk the hands back towards the body. Set the body up again. So the hands almost in a straight line with the shoulders. The fingers slightly turned down. Puff your chest open. Tuck the toes of that back foot under. And then lift using the middle of your body. So I'm starting to engage the core, the belly, the hips, the pelvis. Everything picks up. Land that right foot just where it is. Walk the dog. Little small, gentle movements. One heel lifts, one heel lowers. Lift both heels and take tiny little steps. Walk back towards the top of your mat. Exhale, fold. Maybe give the head a little bit of a shake, and I want you to roll up so slowly. Come up super slow. Take your time. When you get to the top, roll the shoulders down and back, rotate the palms forward, create space between each of the fingers, raise the arms, breath in, look up, and bow down towards the earth. Step back left to right, high plank. Lower your body slowly. Big toes, heels together, roll the shoulders back, baby cobra. Tuck the toes under, exhale. Downward facing dog on a breath out. This time extend that left leg, three-legged dog. And the left knee draws just outside of your left hand. So your left knee towards your left hand, left foot just in front of my right hip. And as I lower that back leg, slide the back leg away until I can feel my hips starting to come closer towards the ground. And creating that nice balance and square alignment, hips and shoulders. Maybe use a cushion. If you were to place a cushion underneath your left hip, you could almost just rest your left hip, the back of your left hip on a cushion, and then the front of your right hip presses into the same cushion. That would be an option to allow the hips to be supported. The arms are straight, but not too much weight into the arms. Using the core and the chest to keep my upper body lifted as I just give myself some time and some space to allow the hips to lower. And maybe stay here, otherwise lowering down towards the forearms. Again, have a play around. What feels right in your body? Arms are straight, coming onto forearms, or if it feels right for you, straightening the arms and lowering the forehead. One of these options will be right for you. You walk the hands back towards the body. Straight arms. Lean slightly towards the left as you swing that right leg all the way round and bring both the legs out in front of you. Start with the legs straight and just gently hinge forward from the hips. Slowly does it. Curl forwards, a nice release through that lower back. Relax that lower jaw. So the option here is to have the knees ever so slightly bent. So it is considered as a hamstring stretch, but I don't want to overemphasize the hamstring stretch as more as emphasize the movement that we can create through the lower back, through the back of the rib cage, and just letting the shoulders hang forwards. So just come into a gentle forward fold. Turn your focus inwards. Again, giving yourself permission just to feel. Again, noticing how you're showing up in this moment. Really what you're doing in the practice is just holding space for yourself as you are today. Walk the hands back towards the body. And as you draw the legs in, the feet are flat, the knees are bent. Use the support of the arms and the legs to gently roll your body back to the mat and take your time as you lower. Once the head is landed, bring the soles of the feet together for variation of sleeping butterfly. Have a play around with the range of movement of the feet and the legs. And so for some of you, sliding the legs further away, so the legs are much further down towards the end of the mat, may feel better around the hips, around the pelvis and the lower back. But it may well be that coming up much higher might be where you need to be. So take a few moments before you settle into the pose to find a space that feels right for you here today. You could place cushions under the outer thighs. Feel that deep dynamic stretch through the inner thighs as the opening up of the hip and the groin area. And it may subtly change the feel of your lower back. You may feel like your lower back is just subtly lifted away from the ground. And just can you give yourself permission to let your body move into a space that feels right in this moment? As you bring the knees closer together, hug the knees towards the chest. Hands about halfway down the shin, drawing the legs in a little closer towards the chest, towards the belly, as you create that gentle rounding of the lower back. And if you think about that pigeon pose, which we went into earlier, another variation of pigeon pose is to do the same feel in your body but from a supported position. So my shoulders are back, my head is supported, lower your feet towards the mat, both feet are flat, knees are bent. So at the moment I have what's called neutral spine position. If you were to bring just one leg in and you take the knee and draw it just slightly wider than your hip or your shoulder, So as you move the knee gently out, the foot will change its angle and turn in. But we don't want to move it so far that it moves the left hip. So you just want to try to move your right leg but keep your left hip fairly stable and still. Place the outer edge of your right foot to rest on your left thigh, on the meaty part, so keeping it away from the knee joint. So this is the same feel that we experienced in the pigeon pose. And for some of us, again, this can be quite challenging. This might be all that you need. And for others, and like me, I feel something, but not too much. And I need to reach my hands between my legs and bring that bottom leg a little closer. But when you bring this bottom in, and I quite often see this in practice with some of my students, is they draw that leg in and then they lose all that beautiful connection through the upper body. So as they reach, the shoulders peel off the mat, the head kind of comes off, and they end up kind of crunching or kind of really coming out of alignment through the shoulders. So the key is to leave your arms on the floor and lift the leg, leaving your shoulders and your arms on the ground. If you could comfortably use the bottom leg to draw the right leg a little closer, and then use the arms, whether the hands on the back of your thigh or halfway down the shin, without compromising the alignment of your head, shoulders and your spine. See if you can bring the legs towards the middle of the body. Take one more round of your breath here. And let's try that on the other side. So the key is to give yourself time to get into it. Feet are flat. Up, create a little bit of space between my feet. With the feet slightly apart and the knees slightly apart, I also create a little bit of space through my hips and my pelvis. I bring the left leg in. And again, try not to pull the leg in. See if that leg can come in on its own. And then when you place the hands down, really you're just supporting. There's no pulling. I'm not using the arms. My arms are still nice and relaxed. The shoulders are back. Let the knee just draw out. As you move through this left leg, can you keep your right hip still? And place the outer edge of your left foot to roughly the middle of your right thigh. Now check in. My shoulder blades resting on the mat, the back of my hips on the mat. Leave your arms on the ground and see if you can lift your right leg without moving anything else. I don't get to a point where it will just stop. For me, that's about there. I feel like I've got no more range of movement. So now that I'm there, I can support my body there by using the hands, maybe the back of the thighs or towards the shin. And really all the arms are doing is giving me some support. I haven't used the arms to draw the legs in. And that's the key with kind of finding kind of that sweet spot that you need to settle into here. And for some of us, if the arms aren't long enough, we literally can't support. So you could place a block or a bolster under this right foot and have the foot resting on something. Because I want to get a deep dynamic stretch, but I don't want to stress my upper body out to create the stretch which ultimately I'm wanting to feel through my hips, my pelvis and my lower back. So maybe placing your foot to rest on a block or a bolster is another option. Let's take one more round of your breath here. And slide the legs away. And now I give myself permission to turn the feet out so my feet are slightly wider than my hips, and I can already feel that nice release through the hip flexors. Try and just let go. Relax the glutes. We tend to want to grip or tighten the glutes, so can we just let them be soft? Relax the arms. Take a full deep belly breath in. Big sigh. Let it go. Just gently begin to move your fingers, move your toes. Walk your feet back towards your body and roll over to one side. And gently using your arm to support the body as you come back up to a seated position. And as we finish this practice here today, let's come back to the position we started in, which was sitting in a cross-legged position. And I just want you to notice how different that feels. Again, if you need a cushion, that's fine. Place a cushion under your sit bones. But if you don't need the cushion, and I didn't need the cushion at the beginning, but I can already feel the difference. I can feel the difference not just in my hips, but in my lower back. And this band and area around the middle of my body. Just from doing some of those very simple hip exercises, I've created a little bit more freedom and space in my body. Let's bring this practice to an end. Raise the hands to heart prayer position. As I bring this practice to an end here today, I say to you, Namaste.